Greetings. Peace. All right. We're going to get started here. Man, let me get my bearings here. Welcome, everybody. Peace. Let me get myself situated here. Cool. All right. We're just going to wait a couple minutes for some people to come in. And then we're going to start rolling. All right. Background music here. Second here. Just give it a second. We're going to start in a minute. Let's go into the settings here real quick and test this thing. Cool. All right. Again, just going to give it a minute. Wait for some people to come in, get myself situated here. All right. I can't connect. Shit's on. All right, peace to everybody. Hold on, I'm trying to connect this thing. Hold on. Okay. All right. Fucking wrong with this thing. Anyway. Don't know why it's not connecting. We'll figure it out. Playing with something here on the side. Can't get this shit to connect. Can't connect that. We'll figure this shit out. All right. Peace. All right, there we go. All right, peoples. Make sure this thing is on. All right, we're almost there. All right, peace. Try this to a little background music here. All right, so we want to welcome everybody. Sorry for that 4 or 5 minute pause there. Just a couple quick announcements while I still waiting for some more people to show up. We are doing tomorrow night, actually, and we still got one sister here that has been here since last week's ritual. We are doing the ritual out on the beach tomorrow night. This is more of an open ritual. Anybody can attend this. We are invoking the archetype of Amun-Ra at sunset. The ritual is centered around getting in touch with your hidden self or your true self. The focus is a meditation, a chant, and an invocation at the moment that the sun disappears over the horizon. And there's that moment when you can see it and when it completely disappears. It happens in a flash of a second, which is symbolic of the aspect of Amun-Ra, or the hidden or true self. So that's what that ritual will be about tomorrow evening. If you are in the area, anybody is welcome to attend. I'm also putting it out there, very important to be on time, because the sun here where we're doing the ritual at is in North Fort Lauderdale and Pompano Beach, and the sun sets at 8:16. So we will be meeting in the parking lot at around 7:40, no later. So just want to make it clear, if you're late, you're just late. We're going to start. This is a particular ritual that deals with timing. So unfortunately, we don't have time to wait for individuals that might be running late. If you need directions on this, on where to get, directions on how to get to the location, you can send me an email. Very simple to get to the location. But again, timing is of the essence of this particular ritual. You'll understand it more. It starts with a group meditation followed by a chant invoking the vibration and frequency of Amun-Ra, and into an invocation. And again, this is the type of ritual that is strictly based on timing. So again, we must be in the parking lot there about 7:40 p.m. All right. You can email me for that. Some of you did get the flyer on the next upcoming ritual. We have actually, believe it or not, we're rolling because the energy that we got rolling right now, we're going with it. For those that have been coming to the rituals over the last year and a half to 2 years, we now have our own spot to do these rituals. So we're not, borrowing space to do them anymore. We've consecrated our own sacred space. It's a lot more powerful. It's a lot more intense. And the beauty of it is we can operate on our time. So we are now able to plan in advance and do these things when we feel like doing them on our time. So we've already set the next ritual. Mostly everybody has gotten the flyer. If you haven't gotten the flyer, we try and put it out in advance. So if you are preparing to travel to the ritual, it gives you some time to prepare. So that will be done on Friday, July 27th. You must be at the location at 8 o'clock. It is by invite, and that'll be by invite, period, moving forward. If you have not received the flyer, we can send you the information to request the invite, and then we will go from there. So that's coming up on July 27th, and it is a vampiric mass according to the ancient Egyptian rite. We will be invoking the various different archetypes / deity, gods and goddesses that connect with the vampiric energy, such as, and without giving away the ritual, Sekhmet, Kali, Set, Anubis will be 4 of the key. And it is a reason why we have 2 female, 2 male. You'll understand the ritual if you do participate in it more as you go through it. So that is upcoming on Friday, July 27th by invite only. You just need to send an email to khnum19@gmail.com. If you did not get the flyer, you can request that email. Consultations. This has been a very busy week. Again, I usually do not come on Thursday evenings, but again, I won't be able to come on the rest of this week until early next week. So Thursdays is kind of usually out of the box right now with everything going on. But last week and this week, I'm able to squeeze it in because of the schedule. So also want to put that out there. More than likely, the next video won't be till sometime early next week. So this will be my last video of this week. Unfortunately, I know people email and ask about set times and things of that nature. Unfortunately, I can't commit to set times. I know I get that email frequently. Do you do live videos at set times? No, I don't. As you know, as you see when I come on, it could be in the daytime, in the afternoon. I might come on the evening. It could be a Monday, Tuesday, Friday. I don't really know. I'm just, again, as I've mentioned many times in many other videos, I'm just kind of going with the flow based on everything that I got going on spiritually, personally, and professionally. So that's the schedule. Unfortunately, I wish I had more to give you, but I can't. So you're just going to have to roll with that. When I do know, as if I know a day or so in advance, what I have been trying to do for the last couple of weeks, several weeks or so, is put a notification up at least a day or so in advance if I do know, and that's pretty much the best I can do. Unfortunately, I can't give a week out notice, 2 weeks or whatever. It's not possible. All right, so to answer that question, because I've gotten emails about that, consultations, it's been between the ritual the past weekend and it's been nonstop consultations since Friday, literally, off and on. As I mentioned, I am pretty much even keel. I guess you could say I'm caught up. But if you are requesting one, I'm still, normal window, 48 hours. And again, request whether you want a spiritual reading, which is using the system of divination, be it runes, cards, or whatever other method the spirit or the energy leads me to, or if you want a consultation. It's two different things. Consultation is more of a free-for-all. We can discuss whatever you want to discuss. And as I said, people will utilize that for, information about this path, how to do specific work, etc. All right. So reading deals with whatever energy is around you at the moment. We just use a system of divination, not to pull any spirits just coming through me. I want to make sure people, are clear. It's actually we're pulling your energy down and your spirits, and whatever's coming through you via your spirits and your energy. We kind of read and feed off of that. And those that have worked with me understand and know what I'm talking about. I don't need to put testimonials up and all that other bullshit like people do and get up on YouTube and blab about clients and success. Unfortunately, got a lot of buffoons doing that. To me, that shows a weakness and an insecurity. My work speaks for itself, and those that work with me know that. So that's why you don't hear me blabbing and running my mouth about that. The way you find out is by experiencing it. It's that simple. So again, for all that, any of the things I just mentioned, those quick announcements, the ritual on the beach tomorrow evening, Brother Jack, what's going on, brother? Brother Jack will be out there. And after the ritual concludes, we're going straight into drumming throughout the evening for a few hours. So if you are coming out and you have drums or some type of spiritual instrument, bring it out. As soon as the ritual concludes, we will be going into drumming for a few hours on the beach, which is always fun. I will shoot some live videos tomorrow night while we are there. And after the ritual is over, we will, as we usually do, gather and get some grub when we're finished. So it'll be a good time for those coming out. We're expecting right now, I think around 7 to 8 people, possibly more. But I know for sure we have about 8 people, that I know for sure right now. But it'll be a good time because once we start banging them drums and people start coming, the beach usually, where we are on the beach usually becomes the focus because we bring that thunder when we start playing. I know Brother Jack, like I say, he'll be there tomorrow. So we're going to get down. So it's going to be a good evening tomorrow night. It'll be fun, a little more laid back, but powerful. Okay, which leads me to tonight's subject and topic, again, kind of came to the surface based on a lot of the ritualistic work personally that I've been doing in the last year or so, and collectively with some of you guys in a group setting. So I want to kind of discuss the difference. Well, not so much the difference. Let me rephrase that. The different aspects, that is the correct word, of initiation, adepthood, or being an adept, and its connectional relation to a Black magician. Sometimes I think Jack's Bliggity Black. Sometimes I think the two get intertwined and confused as being the same thing. Though I know most people will say they know it's different, but when we try to explain the differences, it gets a little bit foggy. So I have a section prepared here I'm going to go through, and this is a book that was written a few years back by Mijin Gonzalez Whippler, who was initiated in Santeria, but she's not only deals with Santeria, she deals with the occult and magic and ritualistic aspects of those cultures. This book, I believe, was written in 1990. You could definitely get a copy of this book online. You can get it used or new. It's the complete book of spells, ceremonies, and magic. There's a section in here that stood out to me that I remembered when I read this book. And it starts, like I said, I like to tell people what I'm reading so you can understand and obviously where to look for it and get it. All right. There's a section on initiation and adepthood in chapter 5, starts on page 46. All right. So, first of all, we've mentioned and touched in the past. All right, let me just greet it. I know I didn't greet nobody. My bad. I'm just going to greet who I see here, and then we'll keep it moving. Peace to Brother Dan, a.k.a. Duma, Brother Josh, the Black Tower, Christian Cake. Who else we got here? Cam Dash Bandit, Ismail El Bay, Smooth the God. Peace, God. I ain't seen you in a minute. Uptown 157, peace. Baffalicious Yummy, aka Baffa, peace, Baffalicious Yummy. Brother Seth Atner, peace. The Enforcer, aka Jack, what's up, brother? And I think that covers everybody that I see in the chat. All right, anybody else comes in after that, peace and greetings. So let's understand initiations and the type of initiations. As I said a second ago, this topic has come up a lot in the past, the necessity or lack of necessity of it. And this has to be looked at from a multitude of perspectives. One, there is group initiation or initiation in a specific spiritual system. There's certain levels of self-initiation, which are very important and very powerful in a particular current or spiritual system. And again, why this came to mind, they also vary and serve different purposes, just like group rituals and collectively as a group and individual rituals do. So the importance of or lack of in a particular spiritual system. Let's touch on that real quick. I ain't gonna stay on it too long because we've touched on this. For an example, be it Freemasonry, be it the Order Templi Orientis, be it the Rosicrucian Order, be it Ifa/Santeria, be it Palo. And I'm just throwing out some of the ones we talk about frequently here. Is it important to be initiated in them things? And as I've answered this question in the past, and I'll run through it briefly again on this level, the answer to that question is yes and no. And that's not sideswiping or dancing. This is why I say yes or no. You must be clear when teaching on these things what perspective you're coming from. I did a video a few months ago, all right, talking about we have a lot of fake ass people out here claiming to be tatas and nagas and babalawos and high priestess this, high chief this, your mother's ass crack this, and all types of shit. You know, everybody takes on these colorful names and puts some African slang in front of it and shit, and sounds heavy, but it's all a scam to get your money. In that video I did, and if you haven't seen it, I suggest you go back to it and watch it. I put on the screen, not because, again, as I said in that video a couple of months ago, I think it was back in May sometime, mid to late May. I didn't put my credentials on the screen to show them, to get a pat on the back. I put my credentials on the screen to show people that what I talk about and say I've experienced, I deal with. I don't deal with bullshit. I don't deal with fuckery. I don't deal with cons and hustles, okay? That is just all bullshit. So on that screen, you can freeze it. When you watch the video, I put my Master Mason initiation certificate over there, my Rosicrucian initiation. Let me make this clear. When you're in the Rosicrucian order, not just when you sign up and get your monographs, you're actually initiated when you go through your temple degrees. And I put my card on the screen to show that's when you're physically initiated in the temple. Anybody can join the Rosicrucian order on a home study basis and receive monographs. Anybody has the ability to do that. You go through your 3 levels on the Rosicrucian order, the atrium level. And once you get through those 3 levels, then you are invited to take your initiation in the temple if you go that far. There are 12 temple degrees one must go through to get fully initiated in the Rosicrucian order. I have received 10 of them. I have 2 more left to do because it's something that takes a year's process, roughly 8 to 10 years to complete. And that's because that's the way it's set up. All right. So, and yes, I know Brother Seth Atner, aka Mike, I know he's a Rosicrucian. And when I served as master of the Fort Lauderdale Lodge, Brother Jack and Brother Seth Atner can attest they came and attended, and they still are members of the Rosicrucian order. And Brother Mike, I know, has taken his initiation at the Grand Lodge in Tampa. And I believe he didn't do that too long ago, if I'm not mistaken. I'm saying this to say, because we have all these YouTube scholars out here talking about, Ifa and Palo and the Rosicrucians and OTO, and they don't know a fucking lick. So I put my credentials on the screen just so I'm not confused with those individuals. You can freeze the frame and see when I was initiated on the certificate, be it my Masonic certificate, be it my OTO initiation. You will see the degree that I'm on in that and was actually initiated in the temple. The same thing with the Rosicrucian order, etc. Now, as far as when it comes to Ifa and Palo, you don't get it's not the same as being a part of an esoterical society or order. You don't get a certificate, like a written certificate. You do have things logged in your journal or your personal book, your dates, things of that nature. But remember, that's a tradition that's passed from mouth to ear. But as I said in that video back in May, just by having a dialogue with somebody, you'll know if they were or were not initiated when it comes to those traditions. So I'm saying that to say, in relation to initiation, those are the reasons why it's important. So if you haven't gone through those things in those particular spiritual systems, then you must be clear and you're not duping the masses and tell the people that you're coming from a research perspective, okay? Because a lot of these people on the internet are just coming from shit that they read, shit that they heard, people that they talk to, etc. All right? So you must be clear when saying that, because like I said, I've literally sat in classes over the years. And again, I mentioned this. It was, I think 2 years ago. I'm not going to say who it was. It was a prominent lecturer. It's not important. And they were speaking on OTO or the teachings of the Order Templi Orientis. Now, mind you, I'm sitting there initiated in OTO, but again, didn't make it known, didn't feel the need to, and listen to this particular individual just rattle on nonsense about some of the degrees that take place, the Minerval degree on up, and he was completely off base, which alluded me to the realization that this individual never set foot in an OTO lodge and was just reading secondhand information, right? We have what we call also in the Masonic lodge, operative and speculative, right? Operative are, your surface, people that, and then people get this mixed up. They say it reverse. Speculative are the ones that keep the secrets, right? They'll say it reverse, but you have to reflect on that to understand that. So initiation is important based on the perspective you're coming from when it comes to certain spiritual systems. So I have no problem with anybody teaching on any of these esoterical orders, spiritual systems, etc., as long as you're being clear with people and telling them what perspective you're coming from. So I'm not into all those conspiracy theory videos done on masonry. It's just comical. All Masons are devil worshipers, and there's all these type of sex rituals that go on in the lodge. Look, I don't know what lodge those motherfuckers went through. I don't know anybody in any lodge that I belong through that went through that, bullshit that's being spoken of. And then when you ask for concrete evidence or proof on these things, they can't provide you with anything. Same thing with OTO, etc. The list goes on. So that's initiation into a specific spiritual system or esoterical group. Self-initiation, to me, if you practice or connect with a certain spiritual current, is very important. And it's probably the most important type of initiation you will do. If you claim to study the vampiric spiritual system, the Luciferian spiritual system, whatever it might be, there is always some type of personal rite one must do to bring themselves fully into the current or the energy or the spiritual system. All right. And that, I believe, is necessary if you choose to practice a specific spiritual system. No getting around that. When we're doing a lot of these collective rituals that we have been doing for a while now here in the Fort Lauderdale, Miami area, West Palm, Fort Lauderdale, Miami, we are going through a series of initiations. The unique thing about the ritualistic work that we're doing right now, especially the last ritual we just did, which was pretty, it was thorough, it was lengthy, and it was intense, and it had multiple parts to it. And again, those that participated understand now the extent of the ritual initiation that they went through. It's unique in the sense because as we're performing it collectively as a group, each individual is going through a personal experience / initiation on a mental level. And as I said before, real left-hand path work is not really just about a lot of the physical things that we connect with. It is always connected to working with the high mental energy / spiritual power. It takes a lot of focus, a lot of concentration. It takes a lot of self-centered looking in, really connecting with all aspects of yourself. And that means strengths and weaknesses, not just, the great things you love about yourself. That's easy to do. And what we've seen over the last several months in these workings and rituals, what I've seen firsthand, and I know Brother Jack, Sister Sonia, and others that have been there, is an influx of emotions from people in this work, from joy to sadness to tears streaming down their face, which confirms that they're tapping into a part of their psyche, their emotional centers, which connects to their real self. And that's a beautiful thing. And it tends to affect and hit people on different levels. You understand? Everybody has different experiences with it. But the beauty of it is you can see, the connection, the response. It's the best way I can put it. It's a great feeling to see people, connecting, doing work, getting results. And it's great to see that, wow, look, this was, you know, something more than I thought it was, as far as, you know, it made me see what I really need to do, what I got to do to improve myself, things of that nature. So all that connects. So what I want to do real quick, having said that, I didn't even get into the section I want to, let's talk a little bit about the purpose of some of these initiations, okay? Initiations, then their purpose. Before you cross the mental and spiritual threshold of a greater understanding, all right, you must courageously face those realities, those notions that have for so long stood in the shadows of your mind to taunt and thwart you, all right? You now need the strength of the divine within you. The challenge is basically what initiation is all about. Let me say that again. The challenge is basically what the initiation is all about, okay? Now, that challenge is not just talking about physically. There is a physical aspect of it. It's also talking about emotionally, spiritually, and mentally. It's going to test your willpower, okay? And I'm bringing this all out. And this is the initiation part. Then we're going to connect it to adepthood. See, initiation makes you worthy to get to the threshold, the doorway, or what we say as the pylon or entranceway into being an adept. And at the adept stage is when the journey really begins. All right. All right. So the candidate is challenged to pass the ordeal of the initiation. So is it going to be easy? Absolutely not. If it was easy, you know, it's the old saying, nothing easy is really worth going after, or worth, you know, seeking, because if it's easy, it can't really have any specific benefits, okay? If he or she wishes to enter into the mysteries, and the only defense the initiate has during this often, sometimes terrifying experience of the initiation ritual is their courage and determination. So what are the weapons that's going to get you through? And again, we're more or less talking about initiation in a specific spiritual system in a lodge, temple / sacred setting. This is to understand the purpose of the first thing that I was talking about when it comes in relation to going through a Masonic initiation, the Rosicrucian order, OTO, etc. All right, you know, or even Palo, Ifa, etc. All right. All true, and notice the word true, all true initiations consist of either a fearful or humiliating experience to the initiate. I've watched people's egos get bruised and their feelings and emotions get hurt. I've watched people quit in these rituals. I've watched people never return because they got caught up in their emotions and their personal feelings. And the purpose of one of the purposes of part of the initiations is to strip you down to your at your lowest and to see how you're going to respond. Everybody responds differently. Those that are reactive and emotional, and we all are to a certain extent, and I know I am to a certain extent, because I remember going through my first Masonic degree, when some of the physical nonsense took place. I was ready to pretty much fight back and start punching people. But I was much younger then and didn't understand what I understand now. Obviously, nobody likes having hands put on them or going through physical ordeals. If you've been through a college fraternity, same thing. As Brother Jack is commenting, seen grown men act scary during a ritual. I have too. I've seen grown, big, muscular, in-shape guys literally cry like females in a ritual where they didn't know what was going on. And because out of that unknowingness and fear, these are the same guys that are tough guys out in the open, because they're big and they act macho and tough. But in that darkness, that toughness fades. It's funny. It's kind of unique because you could always, quote unquote, see the bitch and the fear in somebody. I hate to say it, but I can smell it sometimes when they walk in the room. and it sometimes doesn't turn out well for that person. So if you've gone through one of them degrees and maybe you might have been one of the individuals that quit or left, there's a purpose for that humiliation. It's supposed to strip you of everything. Like, for an example, if you've gone through a Masonic lodge, they divest you of all metals. What does that mean? When you go into the ante room, you're told to, take off all your clothes. You put on your, your ritual clothing that you're going to wear, your cable toe, your blindfold, and you're divested of all metals. There's a reason for that when you go through later in the lodge. So you're basically walking in there with nothing. This is what you got to focus on. You're walking in there with nothing physical, because what you're about to encounter and the ordeal you're getting ready to go through, there's nothing physical that's going to help you in that situation. Because what did it say up here? Courage and determination. Pure mental tenacity is what's going to get you through. All right. Okay, so it goes on to say, all true initiations consist of either a fearful or humiliating experience to the initiate. The latter quality can be compared with the often degrading ordeals that some fraternities and sororities plan for their new candidates, which I just talked about. The spiritual and mental transition, well, let's come up here. Fear of humiliation are necessary ingredients of the initiation, because the aspirant must prove his willingness to surrender his entire being or her during the initiation process. We're going to talk about that in a second. In reality, every initiation entails a cycle of life and death in a spiritual and mythical sense. The initiate's old personality dies during the ritual of initiation, and he or she is born again spiritually after the ordeal. Do you understand that? There's always some symbolicness of death, and it's always something in relation to that first death, which is a mental death, outgrowing old ways, being reborn or renewed again spiritually. Humiliation, as it said here, is necessary to an extent, okay? Because it leads one, which not everybody can do, is to surrender their entire being, which means I always tell people that have performed spiritual work, I always tell them the best way to approach it without being frightened, scared, or fear is to just engulf yourself in the ritual and not overthink it, right? You hear me say this all the time, not try to figure it all out, because you're not going to be able to. If you try to go pre the ritual or the work you're doing, trying to figure it all out before you even begin, you failed before you've even started, because you lose the significance of it. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people that come on this path and they want to, figure everything out before they do it. You understand? So the point being is, if you just kind of go with the flow and engulf yourself in it, it alleviates that. All right. It prevents you from kind of destroying the experience. All right. It's hard for some individuals to let go. It's that old saying too, you must lose some control to gain control. So it's hard for some individuals to basically, try to, overcome the what's going to happen. Why is it happening? What's getting ready to take place? Instead of you focusing on that, you're more focused on the work that's getting ready to take place at hand. Okay. Okay. All right. So let's go on to the next aspect. All right. So we left off, the initiate's old personality dies during the ritual of initiation, and he or she is born again spiritually after the ordeal. The spiritual and mental transitions experienced by the initiate are felt deeply within his or her unconscious mind, okay? The key in there, though, what you need to really focus on and pay attention to is the unconscious mind, okay? So stuff you're not conscious of. So it eliminates the whole purpose. If you feel like you're going to try to figure everything out before you do it, you're not going to be able to uncover that which is unconscious because you're trying to figure it all out on the surface. And that's why I said earlier, point blank, if your energy and focus and intent is more on what's getting ready to happen and why is it getting ready to happen and trying to figure that all out before you begin, you ruin that experience, okay? As a result, he or she has learned to conquer the fear of physical death and has realized the far greater importance of his eternal soul over his material body. The increased mental and spiritual awareness that is the result of a magical initiation also brings with it the added bounty of very real magical powers. These powers were latent in the initiate, but necessitated the challenge of the initiation to develop them and bring them to the surface of his conscious mind, right? The surface of the conscious mind, the increased mental and spiritual awareness. Now we're getting the purpose and the reason for going through initiation. And again, the reason why this is very important, and I want to kind of go through this, because before you answer that question, because this topic always comes up, it comes up, disappears, comes up, disappears. So now before you answer that question, think about it a little bit more in detail. Think about it a little more in depth. But let's continue on. There's a lot more. All right. The three examples of initiation rituals with which we started in the beginning of this chapter. The first example is an excerpt from the traditional witchcraft ceremony that initiates a young witch into the witch mysteries. The second is an African type. Now we're going through the different types of spiritual systems, where an individual in those particular rituals are tested for courage and endurance in an effort to prepare him or her for their future role as a man or maybe a warrior. The last ritual is part of a solitary initiation of one of the famous of the magical orders with the oath of secrecy, and it forbids the revelation of the name. All right. And you'll find in a lot of these rituals, there are oaths, passwords, certain things that are kept sacred and the reason for that is, and this is why you'll hear, for an example, people say that Freemasonry is a secret society. Well, it's not really that secret because it's open for anybody to join. And when people make a ridiculous statement like that, and I've said this before, any individual can go down to a local lodge in their area and they have what they call open socials and dinners prior to their 2 monthly meetings where you can sit and talk with the members of the lodge and petition the lodge for membership. So it's not that secret. So that kills me when I see conspiracy theory videos and shit on masonry being this secret, all that, fictitious fake bullshit. But the passwords and grips are secret because that's how you determine if an individual went through a particular spiritual system or not. When particular orders such as Masonry, the Rosicrucian order and the Temple degrees has a sacred password on every degree. So if I meet a Rosicrucian that says they were initiated, I'm going to ask you your password. I'll start from the first degree and work my way up. If you don't know the passwords on the degrees, then you were not initiated in the Rosicrucian Lodge. You might have become a member and received monographs. Yes, and anybody can do that watching this video. You can receive your monthly monographs via the mail or if you sign up online and get that. But that's just the prelude to see who's going to hang around. And I've mentioned this before in videos going way back. That's not the telltale sign. And again, Brother Seth Athman, Mike, Brother Jack, who are in here, and as I said before, Brother Mike, who just recently went through our Grand Lodge here in the state of Florida is Tampa. And the other question you can simply ask somebody who was the presiding high priest over your ritual, and when did you go through? What date? And if a person can't answer those questions, being on any system, then they're full of shit. That's all there is to it. And it should just be a man or a woman and just say, no, I've studied, I'm familiar with it, but I've never gone through and been initiated. All right. So this is important, again, to understand the importance of or not initiation. So I want to stress that. So in those particular orders, that's why there's passwords, signs, and grips, because that's how you can recognize an individual on a specific level or degree, etc. If they can't respond, then they're just not on. Then they're full of shit. All right. Let's continue on down here. This is important here. All right. Once this demand is met and the ordeal is over and the door of the mysteries opens for the new magician, one of the first things the initiate must do prior to the ceremony is to choose a new name that will identify him and his new magical personality. And it's funny that this is in here, because I just had this discussion with people this past weekend, because there was a point in the ritual when we were doing the invocation, you had to say your sacred or spiritual name or the name you were known by. You should at some point in your journey, and I see some people in here, quote unquote, have spiritual names, but you should take upon yourself what it says here, a name that taps into and identifies your new magical personality. And this question comes up a lot as far as taking spiritual names, etc. You shouldn't just take a name because you like it and it sounds good. It should describe your character. It should fit your personality. It should, you should be able to live up to that name. Unfortunately, in a lot of spiritual circles, be it the Kemetic circle or a Hebrew and Arabic and Muslim name, people take shit because it sounds good. Everybody wants to take the name Heru, Ra, but what is the meaning? I like to ask people, what is the meaning of your name? What does it mean? What does it signify? And does it really tap in and to connect to your personality, to your character, to your nature? And if you can if you can answer all those questions with a definitive yes, then that's the name for you. And sometimes in certain spiritual systems, based on your level and progression of the mysteries that you're going through, sometimes a name is conveyed upon you because it kind of identifies where you're at in those spiritual systems. But on this path, one of the most powerful or a really positive thing you can do is choose your own name. And I recommended to some of the people that came to the ritual this past weekend that those that didn't maybe, quote unquote, have a certain name, they should start thinking about, because there are certain names we should be known inside the temple when we're doing work. All right. It's very important. So that's something I wanted to draw upon in that particular part, right? The name is chosen according to the magical aspirations of the initiate, or as a representation of his best characteristics. I was just going through this. The name may be symbolic or borrowed from one of the ancient gods. In witchcraft, magical names like Circe and Selene are common, and so are allegorical names like Alba, Serena, the transcendental magic, etc. I'm going to skip through this. This is just talking about particular cultures, right? The magical name is one of the secrets of the magician, all right? So let me explain this. And especially in the Egyptian mysteries, in the Ifa traditions, in certain levels of spirituality you go through, there's what we call a known name and a secret name. Your secret or sacred name will be revealed to you. That's a name you don't ever let anybody know. Your spiritual name, or the name that you're known and you go by, that's the name everybody inside the temple / lodge ritual chamber should know you by. We shouldn't be using these quote unquote modern English names that we got, because those are the names we use in the everyday world. So I'm not saying, you know, you need to go to work and be known by your spiritual name in the temple. Your sacred name or secret name, the best thing I can tell you is it's not so much a verbal name, like as you would a written name. It's more or less a tone, a frequency, or a vibration that connects to you spiritually and unlocks certain parts of your psyche or your psychic centers. And when you hear that particular name that emits that vibration, tone, and frequency, it unlocks some of your hidden power. That name is only known to you. That's a name you raise yourself up to. And the best thing I can tell you with that, when that moment comes, you will know you are experiencing that moment. It's not something anybody can tell you. When, where, how, the date, time, and place it's coming, it will be conferred upon you in real time when need be. Hopefully that makes sense. And it's not, again, a written name. It's the best thing I can tell you. That name is only known to you because it's liken it to the story of Ra and Aset, right? How was Aset able to get the sacred word from Ra? She was able to open him up by way of his secret name because she knew he was feeding her bullshit. And once she got the word that she was looking for, that sacred name, if it gets into the wrong hands of the wrong individual, that can open that individual to have a certain level of spiritual power over you. But if you're a wise individual, you know, that name will never be known but to yourself. Trust me. So let's understand that about names moving forward. So there is the given name that you take on in doing your magical work, your spiritual name that everybody knows you by, that we go amongst each other, and especially when we're in the temple doing work, and the name you should be called and summoned upon, because that's the exterior that will connect you to your secret or sacred name. All right. This is important. And again, I'm trying to convey it without it sounding, you know, mythical or spooky. It's hard to convey something that you really can only really confirm via experience, but hopefully you kind of get the idea. All right. So the magical name is one of the secrets of the magician. He must never reveal it to the uninitiated. Most of the powers of the magician can be tapped if only his magical name is known. And I was just going through that. The ancient magical custom of name changing is also seen in the Catholic ceremony of confirmation, which children are supposed to undergo after they reach their 13th year. A new name is given to the child, which is often the name of an angel or a Catholic saint, which signifies, again, and I can relate to this. And if anybody out there used to be Catholic, I grew up Catholic, went my first 8 years of school from 1st to 8th grade, went to Catholic school. And it's funny because confirmation has root in the word confirm, right? So it's kind of symbolic or similar to what a person in the Hebrew religion goes through in their bar mitzvah. Bar mitzvah means son of the commandments, right? So when you become 13 in the Jewish faith, you're considered a man, and now you're considered responsible for keeping the commandments. So there's a whole ceremony to confirm that, right? The Catholics basically do the same thing, and they call it confirmation, where the male and the female reach the age where they are now considered an adult spiritually, and they are now required to keep the spiritual laws. They take a new name in those ceremonies to signify, again, a transition spiritually in life. So you're seeing a lot of these spiritual practices on a very watered down, mundane level in mainstream, monotheism, be it Islam, Christianity, and Judaism. And same thing. One of the main ceremonies one can take in Islam is their shahada, right? And shahada has root in the Arabic word shahidu, which means to witness, right? You become a witness, you bear witness in quote unquote Allah, and you do this stupid thing with your finger, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah Muhammadin Rasulullah. I bear witness that there is no God but Allah and Muhammad is his prophet. That's it. That's pretty much the whole fucking ceremony. Anybody that went through it knows what I'm talking about. And then you take on, if you are a convert to Islam, you take on a quote unquote Islamic / righteous name. All again, which is a form of initiation from a transitional phase or state, mentally, spiritually, into another mental or spiritual state. So you're seeing that again on the very mundane, basic level, and you're seeing it also on the esoteric level, which leads us to this term we've heard many times in metaphysics and alchemy. You hear it a lot in alchemy, exoteric and esoteric, right? In the book by Roger William Huck, he talks about this, Alchemy for Personal Transformation. Alchemist looks at the esoteric aspect of things, correct? A physical person that's lacking in spiritual discernment and understanding looks at the exoteric aspect of things. And that's why it's hard to reach exoteric people, because they're looking for everything on the surface. And they're looking for it to line up with their personal ideology, and they can't see the deeper spiritual explanations and meanings of these things, unfortunately, right? All right. So let me finish this last section, then we'll go into the adeptship. All right. There's a lot. I'm not going to go through all of this, but let's see what it says. All right. The significance of a new name during a magical initiation is linked to the rebirth of the personality that is believed to take place after the initiation. The blindfold and the binding of hands and feet used in many initiation rites symbolize the initiate's ignorance of the mysteries and his subjection and enslavement to his impure material body. Some of y'all that have done work with us, if you went through that eternal order of darkness and chaos ritual, you got a good dose of everything that we're talking about here. And I believe Brother Jack is still here, and he can attest to this. I said this before. We had probably close to 25 people at that ritual, and we probably don't see about 17 to 18 of them anymore. Remember, I was saying in the beginning of the video, some people get caught up in their emotions and their personal feelings, and they took some of that shit personal, unfortunately, which was confirmation that that's just not for everybody. And that's okay. There are points in these workings / rituals, I'm talking about initiations now, where you are offered the opportunity. You're always asked, is it of your own free will and accord? Are you willing, to go through this? You understand? So you always ask that. Is it of your own free will and accord? You understand? You're also given opportunities to leave if you so choose. Okay. Unfortunately, some don't, and doesn't pan out or turn out to be what people think it is. All right. So as I said, like in the beginning, we don't see a lot of those people anymore, because these were people that said, yeah, I want to walk the path. I want to go through the trials and tribulations. I want to be tested, to the utmost. I want to, experience this. And because, on my opinion, from what I've seen, because of their preconceived notions and what they thought it was, when it doesn't pan out, that's where they get caught up in their personal emotions and feelings. Just so I can get reference, because I want to make sure there's nothing wrong with this, because I haven't seen anything come up in the chat for 30 minutes. Can somebody type something in? I can't, I'm not seeing anything. I'm going to type something in just to see if it works. I'm not sure. I'm trying to refresh it. I think there's something wrong with it. Hold on. Okay, I see it. It's good. I thought there was something wrong with it because I haven't seen anybody type anything in. All right, cool. All right, good. I appreciate that. But like I said, Brother Jack and Brother Seth Athno, if they're still in here, they can attest to what I'm saying as being true. So think about this. We're talking just about 25 people, and we might see 8 of them still. And I've heard everything from, well, maybe, that type of work wasn't for them. And that's my whole point. Maybe it wasn't, but I don't get that sense. I get more of the sense that it just didn't go according to how they thought it was, and it becomes personal. What I mean by personal, their dislike for this or that. Because in that ritual, if you did that ritual, everything we just read here, you went through. You faced completely being at the mercy and will. No, you had to let go of complete control. You were blindfolded, etc. You were humiliated to a certain extent. Some came through like troopers, and much respect to the ones that are still standing and are around. Because I said this from day one, from the first day I stepped on this channel, when I started doing this YouTube stuff, I'm more interested in quality than quantity. I actually like it better the way it is now, with a group of 10, 12 people, fluctuating here and there. It seems like it's like getting rid of all the knuckleheads and the distractions, and we're able to work as a collective unit now moving forward. None of the drama, none of the personal bullshit, none of the likes and dislikes, because when you get that circle strong, and every time we cast that hermetic circle when we're working our rituals, we're making that sacred space even stronger. We're creating more of an impenetrable wall where the bullshit won't be able to penetrate. Trust me when I tell you that. And it's a beautiful thing. So everything that's being read here, now again, we're talking about initiation. So I hope now when somebody asks or poses the question, is initiation important? I would hope you would consider all of these things up until this point we're talking about. All right. And let me finish here. All right. All right. Okay, so the binding of the hand and feet used in many initiation rites symbolize initiation's ignorance of the mysteries and the subjection and enslavement to his impure material body. When initiation is over and his hands and feet are freed and the blindfold removed, the initiate is face to face with his personal God. Didn't say some spook God. The initiate is face to face with his personal deity. Okay, don't miss that part. That is one of the key reasons of doing initiation. And is deep unconscious and is ready to start on his new path to knowledge and wisdom. A transcendental personality and the powers that form part of it mark the transition in the magician's new life and replace his purely human qualities. All right. The mystical death that the magician endures during the initiation is necessary because the new life cannot begin until the old one has been terminated. So what is this saying in essence? Until you shed all of the old bullshit about yourself, all the shit that's been weighing you down, right? There's a term in alchemy, making yourself less dense. That basically means stripping yourself of all of those things that are holding you back, obstacles, things that are weighing you down, your emotions, greed, jealousy, lust, envy, hatred, laziness, shifty bullshit, fuckery, mental issues you might be dealing with, etc. The list goes on and on and on. All right. Where are we at here? Okay. A transcendental personality and the powers that form part of it mark the transition in the magician's new life and replace his purely human qualities, or her in this case. The mystical death that the magician endures during his initiation is necessary because the new life cannot begin until the old one has been terminated, right? He is, in a sense, rebaptized in the fires of the spirit instead of the waters of the body. Like religious baptism, magical baptism entails a casting out of, I don't like to even use this word, devils and negative things. In religion, that's what they say. Just as a human baby is born and then ritually cleansed of original sin, so will the magician emerge reborn from the womb of matter and be cleansed in mind as well as spirit after their initiation. The coming of age ceremonies, as the Jewish bar mitzvah, which we just talked about, the initiation rites of great antiquity, they have been incorporated across the centuries into the liturgical ceremonies of these great religions, but their origins lie shrouded in the magical rites of the ancients. And the last paragraph here, the ceremony of initiation, far from being the exclusive achievement of the magician, meaning this is not it. Just because you've been initiated in something, and we're going to talk about that because now that leads to the bridge to being an adept. And this is why, again, I'm trying to, especially for people that say they belong to these spiritual systems, these esoterical societies, or they're teaching on it and claim to be, you'll know. This is why. This is why I'm trying to go over them. I'm trying to put all that shit to rest, because I get emails from people that are getting ripped off from these online gurus. You understand what I'm saying? These tatas and Palo high priests, and they're paying these people ridiculous amount of money to do ridiculous, stupid shit. And it's sad, but if you do it once, I can understand making an honest mistake. But if you keep going back for abuse, that's on you. All right, the ceremony of initiation, far from being the exclusive achievement of the magician, is a significant and widespread feature of our society and indicates the status of individuals within it. Whether you are a Mason, a Baptist, a witch, or a Catholic nun makes no difference, as long as you have passed the proper initiation and your new personality has emerged in the form of a new name and a new identity. You are then accepted a member or peer group to whom you are bound by similarity of beliefs and aspirations. So initiation is the doorway to being an adept, whether you do it collectively in a group or whether you do it individually. One first must, and why? Why is initiate? And that's why I said the answer is yes and no. It depends on how you approach it. Why is it important for all those things mentioned? It's about shedding the old ways, removing all those things that are holding you back. It's about, being taken to the lowest and low, testing your tenacity, testing your personality, your characteristics, your nature, to bring you to the lowest of low, to see if you can endure the ordeal, to really see how strong you are, physically, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. Once you have shown your worth in that area, then you are claimed somebody who has been initiated. You are now found worthy to go through the spiritual system. You have now reached the threshold. But as it said here, that is not the telltale all. That doesn't mean because you were initiated in something, you are now, you're done. I got initiated on the Editor Apprentice of the Master Mason degree. So I watch people do the AA degree and just quit. That's not the telltale sign. And here's the deep thing about that. Speaking from a Masonic perspective, in the Blue House, you're not given the real sacred word of a Master Mason. And it's not the one you get in the Blue House. Trust me when I tell you that. I've mentioned this, I think, in the past. It's not the one in the Dunkin' Donuts, Dunkin' Ritual book, okay? You're given one in the lodge, in the Blue House. But after you complete your 3 levels in the Blue House, you have the option to continue your quote-unquote Masonic journey to continue to get the real secret word of a Master Mason. Now, some go through the 3 degrees and stop, and that's entirely fine. They just go through the 3 degrees in what they call the Blue House. They have no interest to go on up to the higher degrees in the Scottish or the York Rite. The Scottish and the York Rite are 2 different paths, but trying to achieve the same thing. York Rite more deals with Hebrew mysticism and a lot of the Hebraic mysteries of the Bible, where the Scottish Rite is more esoterical. It deals with a lot more alchemy and higher spiritual science. 2 different approaches trying to get you to the same point. In those later degrees is when you get the real quote unquote, secret word of a Master Mason. So I want to be clear on that. Again, why is this done? This separates from those who claim to be and those who are not. It's that simple. And it's always been done like that from as far back as this stuff began. All right. So the last section I want to finish with, and then I'll go through some of your comments and questions in the chat. This leads now to the doorway of being an adept. What is an adept? Okay, because we throw this term around. When you hear me saying it, I'm not just saying it because it sounds nice. It sounds deep. It sounds spiritual. If somebody claims to be an adept of the black arts, what are they an adept of? Real simple. When I present myself as an adept, I will explain from whatever perspective I'm coming from. Not only just explain it, I will show and prove and support it with factual information. Just because you read a book on Luciferian magic, or just because you read a book on vampirism, whatever, doesn't mean you're an adept of that art. What trials, tribulations, initiations, either self or collectively, have you gone through to get you to that point by making that statement? Just because you read a book and performed a few rituals, that doesn't make you an adept, which leads me to the next section. All right, I'm saying this because we're at a point now, and the reason why I mentioned in the last video, I'm trying to strip away all the bullshit now, because we use these terms and words. As I said before, when I'm dealing with people, I'm building with people, I'm an observer when I listen. I don't just listen and hear. There's a difference. We have some people that listen, but they ain't hearing shit. We have some people that are hearing, but they're not listening. And then we have people that are doing both because they're observing. I'm hearing and I'm listening to you. And in that hearing, listening process, I am observing. What am I observing? I'm observing everything you're saying and doing. So because through that observation, right, it gives me a telltale sign of who and what you are and what perspective you're coming from, right? We hear the ancient term in a lot of these ancient cultures, the watchers, right? What do you think the watchers, their purpose was in a lot of these spiritual systems, right? So we always on this path are observers and watchers. And that's why you always hear me say, you can't bullshit your way on this path. You can't fluff your way through it. You can't, front your way through it, because your true nature and who and what you really are will manifest. It's not a matter of if. Okay, we'll make that clear. It ain't a matter of if. It's just a matter of when. If you're a fraud, you will be exposed for a fraud. Trust me, it's going to happen. And if you think you can get around it by just putting on a pentagram and some black robes and, and going around professing to everybody with your mouth how deep you are spiritually and how dark and, whatever, it's going to show. We judge, when we say show, improve, and demonstrate your power as a black adept, it's through your works, people. It's through your works. You cannot obtain any level. You can say whatever the fuck, because I hear there's so many people on the internet. Again, I'm not going to get into names because it's irrelevant. That's not my thing. I stay in my lane. I let all these other people that do what they do stay in their lane, and that's fine. But I'll speak in general. There's people on the internet that will say, oh, none of the stuff that I'm talking about tonight is important. Well, it's not important if you decide not to make claims and teach on things you have no experience of. Because you can't teach about Masonry, OTO, the Rosicrucian Order, Ifa, Palo, if you've never experienced half of the shit that the culture entails. Now, you can just make stupid ass statements like, oh, I don't need any of that. I can just connect with the God mind, this and that. Yes, you can to an extent, but it's a different experience. And as long as you're being clear on that experience, I have no problem with that. But when you're making concrete statements about these things with no validation or experience, you pretty much sound like a complete jackass. That's just bottom line. As I've always said before, and that's why I referred to that video I did back in May. I have no problem showing and proving my credentials. I don't have anything to hide. You can go back and refer to that video. I can, I have dates, places, times. I can tell you degrees. And why is that important? Again, not because I want a fucking pat on the back. I just want to make it clear that people understand I don't have an agenda. You understand? I don't have some ulterior motive that I'm trying to conceal from people. Unfortunately, we have what we call, you hear me use the term over the years, conscious pimps, right? Conscious pimps use spirituality and consciousness to pimp people out of money. That's what they do. They claim, look, let me tell you this. Let me be crystal clear on this shit before I finish this last section, and then we'll build. Anybody claiming that they can fix all your fucking problems, they're a complete fucking liar, okay? I don't care how good they sound. I don't care the shit that they talk. I don't care, what deception they put in front of you to create that illusion. The only one that's going to fix your bullshit, you understand, is you. Now, you can use spiritualists, and this is what I do in consultations and readings. Trust me when I tell you, the necessary information comes through for what you need to do, but I make it clear in that initial sit down, okay? You have to do this for yourself. You understand? It ain't going to be some, you need to do this and, blah, 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 and you got to, no. It's going to be clear. And it's centered around, if you make the effort and the energy to carry it out and do what you need to do, you'll get results. So at the end of the day, I don't give a fuck what anybody tells you. And I always tell people, be careful of these motherfuckers where they're working on you and they're touching you and they're putting their hands on your head and you're doing work with them of a personal nature. Never let anybody ever touch your crown chakra. Never. Never let anybody put that part of their hands on your head. You basically are submitting your spiritual self. And these are the people that fall for the games, does voodoo work? Voodoo works if your mind is weak and you believe it can work. That's the power of the voodoo person carrying out the spiritual work because they have mastered your weaknesses. But that same power can be reversed, right? If you are aware or at the heightened awareness of how that power works. It only works on the individual that feels subjected to it. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care what any Bokor, Hugan, whatever says. They know that that's how the power works. They know that there's a certain part that they're able to tap into that's an open weakness. You understand? All right. And yeah, I will get to the question soon. Yeah, I see that's a good question about the Reiki. I just saw that pop up. I will address that. That's a very good question. All right, so the last thing I want to finish, I'm not going to go through the whole thing, just a brief section now because this is kind of what I wanted to get. So now we understand the difference, whether it's self-initiation, group initiation, the importance of it, because it proves you have gone through a system of renewal. You're proving your worth to now get on the road or the path to be an adept, which is a lifelong journey. It's not something that stops with initiation, even if it's self-initiation. Again, just because you read a couple of books on Luciferian magic and performed a few Luciferian rituals, that doesn't make you an adept. Now, whether you think this is important or not, that's personal. You understand? If you just think you can just do everything by just professing it with the tongue, it's not true. I don't care. And I'll show and prove that and back that statement up. You can say, make whatever ridiculous, I've heard it all. Well, I can communicate with the Orishi. Well, anybody can tap into their subjective realm and convince themselves of anything. And maybe you do. But see, that's not my experience. If I haven't had the same or raised myself up to the reality of it, that's fantasy to me. And if you take anybody's word because they claim they speak to spirits and deities and demons, and you're there like a retard going, oh, okay, really? Really? Wow, that's heavy. Then you're just as a fool as some religious person that believes in some hippie that was nailed to a cross. All right? You might as well believe in that spook and that mystery because it's just not a reality. I don't validate other people's personal experiences. Neither do I, wish that they validate mine because that's bullshit. So that's why you don't ever hear me in videos go on a rant about, I had an encounter with Set and Set was speaking to me and blah, blah, blah. Set communicated with me. That's somebody that's got an agenda. I'm sorry. That's somebody that's looking for followers. And then they'll usually follow it up like they're not looking for followers, but that's part of the mind fuck. They really are looking for followers. You understand what I'm saying? Now, if you've had similar experience like the individual is talking about, then you can personally connect. And I have no problem with that. But I don't accept something just because that's just like the pastor saying, like the pastor convinces his congregation in Christianity that he's the only one that could speak to God. The Lord spoke to me the other day and said, blah, 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 right? As if you don't have the power to speak to the Lord yourself. Do you see what I'm trying to get at? So anybody that claims that and they validate their experience and initiation on personal experience alone, just their personal subjective experiences, there's something wrong with that. This is what formed all your major cult leaders like Dr. York. The Nuwapians basically are accepting all of York's subjective experiences as a reality. His encounters with aliens, his experience with extraterrestrials, and all these mythological creatures he claims exist that he basically got from many books over the years. Now, the problem with that is it's a big problem because it doesn't become about the information and the knowledge, because they always come with the fuckery that they're coming with this information that you're a god and you're royal and you're this and that and blah, 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 blah. And then it shifts from the knowledge and the wisdom to about the individual. Now it becomes about them being some high spiritual deity and they communicate with extraterrestrials. And it creates this illusion of fuckery, like they're here, right? They're here and you're here, right? And then in between the you and here, there's some manual of instructions, which is usually a holy tablet or actual facts, you understand? And it's all mental fuckery. Any group that has one particular individual over it as their supreme leader, as I mentioned before many times in the past, run as far away from them fuckers as you can, because there's an agenda, you understand? So when you go through an organization, I'm just using the Nuwapian organization as an example. When you go through an organization where you're accepting one man's personal experience as the core foundation of your spirituality, you're basically under a fucking spell of fuckery, and you are in a cult. And don't run all that cult has root in the word culture, blah, blah, blah. You know, that's the game that they'll try to run you. No, you're a fucking religious fanatical cult is what you are. And all of them have it. The Black Hebrew Israelites have it. They all have camps that has some fuckery leader over it who claims to be some prophet or apostle. Get the fuck out of here with that bullshit. You understand? It's all game. It's all fuckery. Like I said, I could be on that shit all night, but you get the point. The point is, don't take somebody's personal experiences as 100% truth and validate them and co-sign on them unless you've had like experiences. Therefore, again, be careful when the question is asked. Is initiation important? Answer it from your perspective is what I'm trying to get you to see. There's not a right or wrong answer for this question. It's be clear on the perspective. All right, the last thing. Let me get into this, and then I want to have some dialogue with you people before we wrap this up. After the first initiation, this is talking about the adept stage now. So now you got a grasp of what initiation is, the purpose it serves, why, who, what, when, where, etc. And that's not the telltale all. Now you are on the roadway as an adept. This is when the journey really starts to begin. After the first initiation, the initiate truly begins his or her magical work in accordance with the magical system to which he or she adheres. But regardless of his beliefs, he will continue to look at nature with awe and respect and will exercise his new powers with due regard to natural law. We didn't talk about natural law, laws of nature, and physical law. It's all that's important in magic. As the initiated advances on the path of wisdom, he realizes that his true aim is not material power, but spiritual evolution, right? Remember the video a few weeks back, the steads and rewards of doing work on the left-hand path. What was the first and most important principle? Knowledge of self, spiritual growth, spiritual evolution. That is the greatest gift. That's what you should always be seeking over everything else. I always bring up the parable, quote unquote, I stress parable of Solomon in the Bible. What did he request? He requested the wisdom because he knew if he had the wisdom, everything else would come. So if your intent to get on this path is to become as powerful as you can and grow as strong as you are spiritually, all that physical shit will come. The success, the finances, the money, the wealth. And I'm telling you from experience. I'm not saying I'm a fucking billionaire because I'm not, but I'm not starving. You understand what I'm getting at? And when you have that harmony where everything is operating and working in conjunction with each other on the spiritual level, the mental level, the emotional level, and the physical level, you tend to really feel and experience that growth on a daily basis. You understand? So this is important. This is the point. And it just said it there. After the initiation and you start your path on the road to being an adept, you start to realize that should be your main focus and purpose on this path. Your main focus and purpose. If you're coming on this because you just want to work sex rituals, or you just want to work financial rituals, or you just want to manifest physical things, you're going to struggle. And what I mean, are you going to get? You'll get some results. Don't get me wrong. You'll do some work. You'll get some physical results. You'll get some material. It'll come, trust me. But you'll see the inconsistency. That individual is the one that always has so many ups and downs, and there's never no harmony where things are going smooth. There's that constant struggle because of the intent and the focus, right? All right, so let's go on. The world of matter known as the wheel by the yogi ceases to fascinate his senses, meaning the physical. The initiate now attempts to break away from the wheel and devote his efforts to an ever-increasing spiritual enlightenment. He no longer uses his magical powers to acquire material pleasures or indulge in his lower appetites. He does not shun this world, but neither does he court it. And that's called what we call the doctrine of indulgence, where you appease your desires, but you're not controlled by them. So what this is saying here, you don't completely succumb to the material world, but keep this in mind. You don't get so engrossed in the spiritual world, because then we have what we call people that can get a little what we call space cadetted, where everything is fucking spiritual. You know, they meditate all the time. They heal. They can levitate, and they fucking float around, and, you know, but they poor as a fucking church mouse, and they don't see the disharmony in that, right? The real adept has that harmony between both the physical realm and the spiritual realm, okay? And it doesn't mean that, again, you have to be a billionaire. That gift, comes to some individuals. Power to you if you are. But it does mean you should not be hungry on this path. You shouldn't be struggling like that. Now, some people go through certain things in their life at certain times because it's part of an initiation or a spiritual transition they may not be aware of at the moment, but they will come to the realization of it. So understand the fine line between the two, all right? Like forgotten and outgrown toys, his magical powers and knowledge no longer fascinate him. His quest now is to understand the true meaning of his existence and to identify and unify himself with God or the Creator, all right? So I'm going to stop there. So now you see what the purpose of being an adept. So it removes all this spooky shit, right? It's taking all that out the equation. All the spooky shit is gone. I might as well keep these shits on, so I'll read this damn screen. I hope this gave people a good, core breakdown of what the purpose of an initiate is, initiation, whether it's self-initiation, group initiation, and that's not the telltale all, and what it is to be an adept. Stop throwing these words around. Stop making these fucking ridiculous claims, claiming to be shit you're not, because it makes you look like a jackass, all right? And if you're one of these individuals that gets suckered by these people, shame on you. If it happens once, it's an honest mistake. I know people that go back 2, 3, and 4 times and get fucked over by these fake-ass tatas and high priests and priestess talking about, I can make a... Let me bring this. I got to bring this shit up because it's coming through strong. I do work on this, and I've talked about this in the past. I don't enjoy doing it, but I do it. It bothers me when somebody comes to me because they're trying to bring back somebody that left them in a relationship. And let me tell you why. I've watched people get ripped off with this, where they've spent tons of money trying to bring somebody back to them. Now, I've done this work several times in the past, and it can be achieved. I'm not saying it can't. It can. But the first thing I ask the person before I do it, and I'm trying to get them to see the bigger picture, why would you want somebody back that doesn't want you? And I don't ever get a good answer for that question. And I get a pause. I hear crickets. So I pose this rhetorical question Just everybody put themselves in that position for a minute. Or maybe you've been in that position in the past, or maybe you're going through it now. I don't know. Why would you want somebody back that doesn't want you? Think about it. It's more you should be focusing on whatever internal personal insecurity and conflict that you're dealing with that's causing you to feel like that. I hope people understand that. Maybe it's something you're not dealing with in that insecurity and fear where you feel like you can't move forward without that individual. So having that, when I asked that question and I proceeded forward, and I've done work several times over the years to do that for somebody, but I also make them aware of this. If that person leaves again, and it can happen, it sometimes is even worse than the first time. Trust me when I tell you, and I'm telling you this from experience. And I still have watched people want to still proceed forward with it. And it really makes me shake my head and go, I mean, look, business is business. If you come to me for a service, I provide that service. That's it. I'm just going to be point blank. Man, it just baffles me. Like, when I'm done with somebody, I'm done with somebody. I don't want nothing to do with them when I feel like something has been violated, or if I feel like that person has been deceptive, or they just come straight out. If it's a relationship, female or something, they don't want nothing to do with me. I'm done with it. I don't want to do no work to get nobody back that don't want me. I just don't understand that. But I'm using that example as look at the deeper scenario of that whole situation. You should be questioning that there's something wrong with you. What insecurities, fears are you suffering from? And I said, one of those fears that most people suffer from in life, especially as we get older, most of us want to, be loved by somebody. That's a reality. I don't give a fuck how tough you think you are, male or female, or how, fuck that. I don't need no fuck niggas. Niggas ain't shit. We got those motherfucking females, and then we got, the dudes, all bitches are hoes. Most of those people that rant and rave about that all the time, they're people that are suffering from trauma. They're not getting that love that they're looking for. And part of that reason, they're justifiably so to feel like that, because they've been scarred. They've been treated bad, done wrong. And I can feel that energy from a lot of people watching this right now. And it's a normal human emotion to feel like that. You understand? But the advice I always give to those people experiencing that is you got to move forward, and you judge people on their actions. So if you've been an individual that's been scarred in many relationships, be it male or female, you could be ruining what you're really looking for moving forward. You now have the experience to you judge people by their actions, because you can't utilize a past experience not to trust anybody. But at the same token, you can't just leave yourself wide open to be vulnerable, be used and abused. So ask yourself that question. Don't ever lower yourself and put yourself in that situation. Communication is the key, and understanding that communication is the key. So it bothers me to do work for somebody. It's making me recall a couple of people, and one vividly about a year and a half ago. And let me share this real quick to show you the insecurity. I had a female, again, I ain't gonna say her name, came to me. And in this case, she was trying to get rid of an individual, right? Not bring somebody back, but it works two ways. Now, as soon as this person sat down and we sat face to face and I looked at her, I immediately felt like she wasn't telling me something. Because she was the victim. And when somebody's always playing the victim, that raises my suspicion, number one. Number two, the spirits and the energy that was coming through was making it clear exactly what she was being deceptive of and hiding. So what happened was, what she told me on the surface, she called me randomly out of the blue, found my channel, called me randomly out of the blue and said she got this crazy dude. She needs to get rid of him. He's stalking her. And she came home. He broke into her house, right? Which that don't even fucking sound right to me. I said, okay. Set up an appointment with her. I told her to come see me. Okay. She comes down to my office. I sit her down, and now fast forward to tell me where I was at. Immediately, I felt like something was right. Some of my spirits was coming through, like there's all deception, there's something not right. So I asked her, I said, well, who is this individual to you? Well, it was a guy I was talking to, and, we started talking at first, and then I saw he got a little standoffish and controlling, and I wanted to cut it off, and he's just not cutting it off. So immediately what came through right after that, she was fucking this dude and he was giving her money, and she wasn't telling me that. All right. So keep that in mind. What immediately came through, and she didn't tell me, I just said automatically came through. She was fucking the dude was giving her money. And obviously she was depending on this dude for everything. And obviously ladies, when you do that to a dude, you're not working, you're giving up the pussy and you're getting money. The dude automatically thinks that you're his property. You gotta be fucking stupid if you don't know that. So I remember saying to her, I said, no, there's something you're not telling me. And I gave her opportunities. I said, there's something you're not telling me. Is there something else you want to tell me? And I'm trying to give her every opportunity to be straight to the point with me. No, he's just crazy. And I said, you told me all that, crazy control. That's not what I'm talking about. You're leaving something important. So I said, all right, let me help you out. I said, is this dude giving you some type of financial support? Then all of a sudden her face dropped because she was coming deceptive. She was trying. I don't do spiritual work for anybody that's not in the right. Let me make that when you're doing that type of work. You must always be in the right. You come deceptive, it's going to come through. Never come to me with that shit because it'll come through. Well, anyway, she says, yeah. Well, he gave me some money, right? I said, but he gave you some money or he continues to give you some money? Well, she basically told the dude to get lost, but was still taking money from him. That's a no-no. You can't do that. Long story short, I'm not going to go into the rest of it because it's personal of nature. The point I'm trying to draw out is question your motives. In a situation like that, whether you're trying to get rid of somebody or you're trying to bring somebody back. Very important, okay? Because when it comes to work like that, and anybody that does real work, you're going to have to get to the particulars of it. Okay? I don't ever take anything anybody says on face value because everybody's the victim. You understand? Yeah. But anyway, it just made me think of something. All right, let's go through some of the questions in the comments. Let me scroll up. Yeah. Earlier, like I said, I just want to make it clear. Earlier, we had, I don't know who it was, we had some retard in here making some stupid ass about tripping on acid or some shit. That's not the forum for that. If you want to know what whatever, I can't remember the comment, I erased the stupid shit. If you want to know what's more intense, a saliva trip or whatever, go find a room that talks about tripping out or whatever. I couldn't tell you that. That's ask that to somebody that deals with that. All right. So basically, what we do with fuckery is we just delete it. We don't get too much of it, but occasionally you get some retard that pops up here and there. All right, so let's see what we got here. All right, I'll skip the personal conversation. So if you got some questions, comments, go ahead and type them in now. I know there's some here. I hope it sparks some questions because that was a lot to go over in a sense of the significance of it. So I hope your connection into that. And as I said in that video back in May, question motherfuckers about their credentials. Now, you can ask them basic stuff. I'm not saying there's a way to do it. You could ask basic things in the open, but there's some things you want to ask in private. But if they can't answer the basic shit, they full of shit. Same thing, like I remember, with somebody claiming to be a Tata or an initiate in Palo, for an example, have them trace the lineage, things of that nature. But anyway, all right. All right, I said peace to all the people in the room. I'm going to skip that. So if I didn't greet you and you came in after the fact, peace and greetings. All right, so the first comment I see here, which was at 8:54 p.m. So remember, I'm going back to the beginning, so be patient. I'll get to your question or your comment. Oh, that's more of a comment. I guess that was to me earlier. Your aura is vibrant, brother. Red, yellow, green, and in that order from closest to furthest. Okay, good. As long as you ain't seen no like midgets and shit around it. No, I'm just kidding. What else we got here? Let's see. Jack Charles, brother Jack, aka the Enforcer, had made a comment earlier when I was talking about going through initiation and rituals, and he put a comment in there, and he's been in some of them. Seen grown men act scary during a ritual, and I personally, and I did Jack's initiation, and we've talked about this in the past, I believe, briefly on here. At that time that I was serving master over the lodge, Jack was initiated by myself and the group, and I believe that was back in 06, if I'm not, I can't remember the exact, but it was somewhere around 06, about 12, 13 years ago. So I say that to say that he's making that statement based on truth. And the statement is being made not to, again, to frighten or scare people when we were talking about that back then. It was, again, at that point we were talking about to be focused on the work and the things you're getting ready to do. I've watched, again, and we have watched, not just me, Seth Athena, brother Jack, and others that have gone through. We've watched people ruin their experience because, I mean, I literally watched people, so many people over the last 20 plus years I can think of in what we call the anteroom / chamber. And the fear, I've watched them get so engrossed in their fear and being so scared and frightened that it ruins the experience. Is it okay to be scared and nervous and frightened to an extent? Yeah. I remember going through with myself, it was more of a nervousness and an anxiousness. And I just kind of wanted to just dive in. Not, I guess you can use the term, not get it over with just to be done with it. But I think what used to fuck me up more was the anxiousness of waiting for the stuff to begin. And that's where I think a lot of people crack. So yeah, when Jack is making that statement, we've seen it. I've had in my own personal class, in certain groups I went to, I've seen the biggest of tough guys, crumble like cookies. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, all right, what else we got? What else we got? Okay. Seth Athena typed in earlier. This was at 9:34. And again, if you haven't typed in any questions, type them in until I get to the bottom. Because if I get to the bottom and it's done, we done. And I would hope that dialogue sparks some type of questions. I know you can't just sit there and be listening to all that shit and not have any questions. All right. Seth Athena typed in earlier. Oh, real quick before I forget. Remember, I think we're all up to par. If there's anybody in here that are taking the classes starting Saturday, so make sure at 3 p.m. Eastern time you are at your computer for the invite. We're all set, ready to go. If there's anybody that's still, you have one more day. You have until late tomorrow or right up until the time we begin, really till Saturday noon. If you still want to join, register, and pay. I told you as long as you're registered and paid to before we start. Now the book list, if you have started late and some have, you may not be able to get all the books before we start, but you're not going to need all of them in the first week. You would just need some of the early ones in the beginning, which you should be able to gather up. So I just want to put that out there. Make sure, again, I just want to be clear. I got some of you sent me emails of your screen names. I'm not going to be fiddling around. I'm stuck. I don't know how to do this. I gave notification beginning of the week. Make sure you're set and ready to go. When I send that invite, that's it. We're locked in. I just want to be clear. We're dealing with a professional level of mentality. And again, this will be a whole, like I said before, it's going to be a whole different type of setting environment. It's not this here. I just want to make this clear. You will be participating. It's going to be a whole different type of structure. But anyway, if you have any questions on that, you can email me. And make sure you do it before Saturday, please. All right, so Seth Athena typed in at 9:34. some had their own preconceived notion of what it should be looking for them. When it didn't happen, they never returned. Right. And that kind of piggybacks off of what I was saying earlier. And again, Seth, Athena, Brother Jack can attest to, we don't see majority of those people no more. Because of that preconceived notion, I don't think I need these glasses. Because of that preconceived notion, we don't see them no more. And again, I get it. And as I said before, and you've heard me say it a million times, this path is not for everybody. We know that. It isn't for everybody. But it's kind of funny how you see the ones that come in gung-ho and they go out as ho-hos. You understand? And that's cool. If you walk away, look, and just say it wasn't for me, but it's the ones that bother me that walk away with the bitching, the griping, and the complaining and the personal shit. It's not personal, brother. It's not personal, sister. Maybe it's just as simple as the shit's not for you. Just like anything, you know? And it's called life. That's it. All right? All right, the Black Tower typed in earlier. What are your thoughts on self-initiation, sir? And again, I'm not saying this personal. The word sir means jackass. Never refer to anybody as sir. And I know you didn't do that intentional, but go look up the word. And the same thing, queen means whore or harlot. I don't ever refer to a sister as a queen. Again, these are words that have been forced upon us. And I know by all means, Black Tower, you didn't do it intentionally. But that's something from years ago. But I get your point. I'm sorry, just addressing it on that level. Self-initiation by the individual who perseveres through the trials and whom do the actual work. Okay, so that kind of, the answer's kind of in your question. That's the whole key, and that's the purpose of one, self-initiation leads you to the point of that perseverance to do that work. And that's why when I was in the purpose of the video or this particular subject is to understand how the initiation, adepthood, and the black magician, how that all connects. It's a process. So as long, like I say, they both serve a purpose. If, for an example, just so we're clear on this, say one of the spiritual systems that really get your attention is vampirism. Cool. There are all different types in different systems. There's always some self-initiation or group initiatory rite you can do to connect yourself to the current or energy. And once you have done that and you start to consistently carry out work, that applies. And that is exclusively talking about the self-initiation aspect. The group initiation aspect, usually in a lot of these spiritual systems, they're usually broke down by levels and degrees. And there's a reason for that, because that has to be done in a group setting to keep order as far as dealing with a multitude of people simultaneously. Whereas self-initiation, the self-initiate can go at the pace he or she decides to go. So again, understanding and grasping the concept and the difference between the two is critically important. So, but yes, as long as, like you say, that's self-initiation is just as powerful as long as you're approaching it with that mindset. Okay. What else do we got? Seth Athena typed in, initiation for me enabled me to really tap into myself, to come face to face with the hidden me. And that's the point of it, as I mentioned there. For an example, again, the ritual we're doing tomorrow evening on the beach, I mentioned this in the beginning. It's tapping into the hidden aspect of self by way of the archetype energy of Amun-Ra. Amun-Ra is a key archetype energy for the summer solstice, which just began on the 21st. And we're still in the beginning stages of it. So it's that solar energy, quote unquote, that brings in an influx of a lot of power spiritually, mentally, and emotionally. Reason why we're working with the sun aspect of Ra, right? Which you have the triad of Ra being Amun, Atun, Amun, Atun, and Amun. Amun being the hidden, right? And then we're working exclusively with Amun, right? Which we also know phonetically is where religious people, be it Hebrew, Arabic, get the term amen or amin, you hear, right? And it means in the book of Revelations, it is faithful, it is true, right? So when somebody's saying amen, amen, right? They're saying it, they're like validating, but really phonetically has root in the word amun, right? And there's more to that. And that's going to be part of we'll get into a little more that in the first section of the classes, but I don't want to get into all that religion shit right now. The ritual that we're dealing with tomorrow is kind of what Seth Athna just brought up, your hidden self. What it's symbolic of, again, what we're going to do, and again, anybody, as I said in the beginning of the video, if you're in the area, you're welcome to participate. It's nothing, it's a very powerful ritual, but it's not something that's done in closed doors and secrecy. It is open for people to participate. At the point that that sun is setting, this is the focus of the ritual. We will gather, the sun sets here at 8:16. Everything pretty much lines up, numbers and everything. We will be prepared as it's approaching that sunset, right? The whole ritual is centered around dealing with and connecting with your hidden or real self. It begins with a chant a meditation, then a chant to Amun-Ra, and then an invocation as the sun is set. What it does is unlock certain parts of your psyche, of your hidden self. Because what the symbolism of when that shift takes place in the ritual, and trust me, you'll experience it when we do it, for those that are participating tomorrow night, there's a point where the sun is visible and then just disappears in the flash of an eye. Well, in between that point is the true hidden self. And that's why things are done in a cadence and a timing aspect. It awakens that at that point. And that's why we will connect with that aspect of Amun-Ra, the hidden one, right? And that's why one of the titles in my name, my full name, on a path, Beniti Amun-Ra, which means teacher of the hidden one. So to give you an aspect of what my name means that I'm known by, teacher of the hidden one, teacher of the hidden or true self. So that's why that name was actually conveyed. All right, and that's what it means. It's not my secret name, but it is the known name. I know you hear me always just use Beniti, but it's actually Beniti Amun-Ra. The full name is what I would be known, quote unquote, working inside the spiritual circles, the temple, the lodge, etc., whatever you want to call it. So we are connecting with that part tomorrow. And after that ritual is over, we will then drum for the ancestors, the spirits, the deities, the personal daemons. It'll be, trust me, it'll be a nice drum session. I will take some video clips of it tomorrow and I will post them. It's always a good time out there on the beach, especially at that time. And it will get to a point, it always does, where if there's, when there's usually a lot of people out there, and now that there will be, they wind up gravitating over to where we're at. So, but anyway, that's tomorrow. But Seth Athna's comment made me think of that. The hidden. Okay. Baffalicious Yummy. I self-initiated myself, so I feel that it was meant for me to go the route, especially being a left-hand path adept in my past life. Yeah, okay. So if you're connecting with, again, yeah, and then that's the difference between self or personal initiation. You can come to the realization, it could be past lives, connecting with past. And as long as you're getting, I always tell people this, as long as you're getting results, that's the key. Brother Phil, peace, put in work, no doubt. Yeah, this was a question earlier. I wanted to address this. This was at 9:49 by Cam Dash Bandit. What about Reiki? I was talking about be careful when people touch your energy centers. Because in Reiki, they do from head to toe focus on your energy centers. The best way I can tell you about this, yes, you still have to be careful. Now, if somebody is touching your crown and they could be invoking something, how can you be aware of it? Now, I'm saying if somebody's performing Reiki on you. The only way you can truly avoid that, if you have an established relationship with that individual and you have a trust there and you don't sense anything because you're not technically doing anything in a ritualistic setting, there has to be some level of confidence and trust there. is really the only way you can protect, because you are touching head centers. Now, not so much, I'm talking about the head. Really, nobody can really get into your spiritual centers. They have to connect via your crown center. So I'm more or less talking about the crown. So let me give you an example. If an individual, say you were getting a Reiki massage, if you found that individual spending a little too much time around your head area, I'm not talking about the standard, but then maybe they're having, an agenda. So it's kind of something you would have to be able to dictate that level of trust or concern, depending on what manifests. And I've had a couple of Reiki massages over the year, but by very selective individuals. I had a Native American sister do it to me a few years ago, and she was very good. And the thing is, I'm trying to explain it. It's something you just sense or know. It's not really something like I can give you a guideline to, or something you read in the book, because you can't. If your spiritual senses are heightened and you're aware, you will know. That's the best way I can describe it, unfortunately. I don't say unfortunately because it's something tragic. It's just that's the reality of it. That's the only way you will know. But usually a telltale sign if they're spending too much time around your head, be careful of that. I'm a little real picky on that shit. Remember, when you understand metaphysics and just basic spirituality, remember, this is also how spirits are able to mount you / possess you. Because remember, your crown chakra vibrates at a high frequency, and you give off what we call a certain light. Some will call it the halut in Arabic and Eastern mysticism, or your aura. And it's like, look at it like this. It's like you have a plane when it's on a runway at night, it sees the lights on the runway. This is how spirits, quote unquote, are able to descend down through your crown, be it an Orishi mount you, be it whatever it is. It's because you are vibrating at such a high frequency, your crown chakra becomes open when you're reaching, you make yourself less dense and you reach a heightened state of spiritual awareness. You are now a landing way, literally, for these quote unquote spiritual entities to mount you, or you embody the aspects that they represent. I'm saying that to help you understand why you shouldn't let people touch your crown. You understand? And it's very important. And this is why in a lot of ancient religions, the covering of the head is always a tradition in many cultures. Not just for modesty, like in Islam, they always covered the crown because they believed in the mystical systems, or the hidden spiritual systems, that was the doorway or the gateway to the individual. And it is in higher spiritual systems. So be very knowledge and aware of that. All right. So hopefully that helps you with the Reiki question. All right. Well, what else we got? The Black Tower typed in earlier. I was being taught Nur Allahi Reiki. And from what I experienced, it was all about the individual's aura, then sinking it into their chakras and closing gaps, etc. So to me, it was about their subtle body. Yes, that again, I'm not 100% familiar with that Reiki system. And if you have the experience on it, I'm sure, yes. And certain Reiki, yes. And that's why I said, if you see that individual more around your head, they might have a different agenda. And when you say sinking it into their chakras and closing gaps, yes. Whereas that's the whole purpose, to quote unquote, maybe some of the chakras that are not vibrating. But remember, one of those chakras is the crown chakra, which is the most important and even more important than the pineal or the brow chakra. So yes, it does unlock those centers. And I know, again, and I want to make this clear, I'm not a Reiki master. So I don't claim to know all aspects of Reiki. So, what you're saying, yes, that definitely is an aspect of Reiki. But again, the message is don't let motherfuckers be all around your head area. Trust me. All right, what else we got? Black Tower typed in earlier. Also, I hate how in magic they make such a big deal about wealth only bringing themselves into poverty due to where they are focusing on and not having. All right, let me make sure I understand it. I hate how in magic Let me read that again. I'm not sure I got that. I hate how in magic they make such a big deal about wealth only, bringing themselves into poverty due to where they're focusing on that. Oh, okay, I got you. Yeah. And that's what I was talking about earlier. Your focus shouldn't just be on wealth, but you should be a living example of that. A living, walking, talking, breathing, successful example of the information you study. You should be an example of that, and we shouldn't be. Doesn't mean that we're not going to struggle and go through financial times on this path. Of course we are, but as long as it's not constant, you shouldn't, be unsuccessful on this path. So that's not the only main thing you should focus on, but it should be an area of focus on the physical, most definitely. Hold up. So yeah, it should be not the only focus, and there are some people, as Black Tower described, that do focus on it overly, and that's a disharmony too. Remember, the key was what we mentioned earlier. The number one goal on this path is for your spiritual growth and development. That should always be first and foremost. Everything else is secondary. It's that simple. All right. Brother Phil typed in earlier, health issues can be a spiritual sign on a path. That's true. Not all health issues, that's a very good point. Not all health issues are because you're just sick, but I want to be careful when we talk about this because I've seen people misunderstand this. Some people experience things, for an example, severe headaches, numbness, nausea. It could be a multitude of what we would classify as physical symptoms of being ill. Some of it could be that person is ill. Usually when you're tapping into certain energies, you could get the effects from these energies. It could be a sign of something spiritual, ringing in the ears, humming, or vibration in the legs. I'm saying this because I myself have experienced some of this, thinking that there was something wrong with me years back. And usually what that is a sign of, sometimes when we're tapping in, quote unquote, to the spiritual realm, and I'm just using a term we can connect with and relate to, sometimes we're catching glimpses and pieces of it, and those are the effects we get. When in doubt, to rule all those things out, and I've had to do this in the past, it's always good to always attack the physical aspect first. If you're feeling physical symptoms of something and you go to the doctor and you rule everything out. And I did this with numbness in my arms years ago. I thought there was something fucking wrong with me. I really thought, your mind starts wandering. You start thinking crazy shit. And once you've done every test to alleviate it, you'll find that, as like Brother Phil said, it could be a sign of you feeling the spiritual, quote unquote, effects or aftershocks. And what are those effects? It could be the various different energies you're working with and tapping into. So, but always go alleviate the physical doubts first before you go spiritual. Because I watched some people get super spooky and they were actually ill and they needed medical attention, and they should have went that route first. So it's kind of a twofold or a double-edged sword. But yeah. Cash Damn Bandit typed in earlier, can you emphasize more on the yes-no part with initiation, i.e. and E for Santeria? Okay. While achieving left-hand path, isolated consciousness, adepthood path. Yeah. Okay, I can only speak now, having gone through the whole IFA/Santeria thing. Keep this in mind. I'm answering that question from where I'm at now. So would I answer the question now the same way I would have back then? No. That's why I mean yes and no. And let me elaborate a little bit more quickly. Back then, I would have told you it was completely necessary, because at that time I was engulfed in it. Even though I was, doing it at that time, that wasn't the only thing I was exclusively doing. But I would have told you in those stages at that time, yes. I say yes and no now because I say yes because if you really want the full experience and you're going to teach on it or you're going to pass information on it, or you're going to try to educate somebody else on it, that is the good experience to have. You're doing it the right way. I say no if you feel like you don't need it, it's not necessary, but then I would say be cautious of how you teach, talk, and pass on information about it, because you can separate the ones who have and have not been. So I say yes and no because it's personal on how you're going to approach it. And I can only answer it that way now based on the experiences that I went through with it. So it's not by any means necessary, but if you're going to be the individual that chooses not to go through a spiritual system, be initiated, don't get on YouTube or do a video, a class, or a lecture and act like you're the telltale expert on masonry and you never got initiated in a Masonic lodge. That's just fucking ridiculous to me. And it's common sense. And if anybody doesn't see that, how basic that is to understand, then they're not too bright themselves. So that applies not just to IFA/Santeria, it could apply to anything. Now, moving it forward to the second part of your question, the left-hand path, isolated consciousness, or the adepthood path, is different in the sense even though those traditions, you are stripping yourself of old ways and being born to renew, but it's exclusively only to that particular ideology. Whereas left-hand path is not as limited. It's a higher aspect of self, and that's the difference. Left-hand path is not defined by one. We talked about this in the past, how traditions in these systems can become very religious. And traditions sometimes comes off as more religious than quote unquote religion itself. And it's kind of fucked up, but that's really the truth. That's the reality of it. So that's the difference between the two. And that's why I say yes and no. And of course I would answer it like that today. But again, would I have answered it like that, at that time? No, absolutely not. But I say it now knowing what I know, because if I'm going to teach on Ifa and Santeria, I'm not going to bullshit people. I'm going to tell them this is my position in it, and this is the perspective I'm teaching it from. If I'm teaching on Masonry, I'm making it clear I'm teaching it from somebody that was fully initiated in a lodge and went through it. If I'm teaching, on Order Templi Orientis, I'm teaching it on somebody that was initiated in an OTO lodge. Whereas if you're not, and you make the decision and you say, no, I don't want to go through any of those things. Cool. But make it clear when you're teaching and building, well, I'm teaching this based on what I've researched and studied. By all means, I'm not saying this from an experienced initiate. And that's why you can't just moosh your way through shit and say, I know all about Palo, but how can you fully work with those energies if you haven't been initiated into the mysteries of those? And then I've heard people say ridiculous shit. Well, the power of my mind, I can connect with them. You can on a certain level, but I guarantee you it's not the same thing. And how would you be able to decipher between the difference of the two if you've only experienced one of them? That's kind of why I'm saying it explained like that, so there's no confusion. All right. So just hopefully that's clear. All right. And if I didn't clarify it, type in and I'll try to elaborate a little more. All right. What else we got here? Cast down Vandertupton. Even though currently today there is religiosity to that system today, meaning if there is. I found and in my later stages in it, what I did was in the Santeria aspect of Ifa, as we know, is very religious because there's a lot of Catholicism incorporated into the tradition. Because Santeria, which is very popular in the Afro-Caribbean community, especially people from the Caribbean, all the islands, and especially the Latino community. It's a conglomeration of Catholic beliefs with African traditions and spiritual systems. I found as I got later into it, I gravitated away from the Santeras and the Santeros. And again, I love my godmother. She's a Santera. I love her to death. And, I still have a good relationship with her. I started to work more with Babalawos, who dealt more with the Ifa traditions. And I started to gravitate away from the watered down Catholicism / Santeria aspect of it. And in my end periods, I did more work with the Babalawos. And as you know, the word Babalawo means father of the mysteries. they are exclusively, they dedicate their lives like a Catholic priest gets initiated in the priesthood. Their life is dedicated to Olodumare, Olorun. They specifically become his representatives on earth symbolically. And they deal more of a higher spiritual nature. So I saw working with the Babalawos, they're a little bit more committed to the Ifa aspect of it. Even if it's a Cuban Babalawo, the Cuban Babalawo I worked with, they don't really deal with that Santeria stuff. They deal more with what's up, buddy? What's going on, man? You good? You high five, man. What are you doing? You hug. I'm being in a little bit, okay? Love you. So yeah, there is a difference between the two, and I found that I did that more in my end transition in that. All right. Where else am I here? Okay. Yeah, earlier I think Cam Bastan Bandit was talking about some individual earlier. Spiral something was talking about. And I don't want to focus on it because it's a waste of time. About tripping. What's more scary, tripping or doing a ritual? What kind of fucking stupidity is that? Obviously, that's just an individual that's fucking retarded. You're in the wrong room there, buddy. What else we got here? Oh, Sister Sonia stopped in to say peace. Gotta go, peace. K. Edwards. Yeah, you're gonna need that Bible and that Quran for Saturday. If you don't have that particular one, you should be all right to get through. You're gonna need, especially that Oxford annotated Bible. That's very important for the class, that particular translation. But if you do have one period, just bring it. You should be okay. The reason why I stress the Oxford 3rd edition annotated Bible, because we're going to be using a lot of stuff in the commentary for that class. That's important. That's going to be very pertinent to the subject matter of the class. So let's cross our fingers. Maybe, I don't know if you check the shipping, maybe you get lucky and it shows up before Saturday. But if not, just have one period handy if you have one. All right. All right, what else we got? Oh, Black Tower, I guess that was about the Sir comment after. You didn't know. Again, I wasn't saying the Sir comment because you did it intentionally. I know. Everybody says that. And I don't know. Sir, ma'am. Ma'am bothers me too, especially when I hear melanated. It just reminds me of some mammy and pappy shit. That color purple shit. It's funny because my wife always teased me. I hate watching those movies. And I tell her why. I hate that mammy pappy shit. That, yes, sir, Mr. Boss Man, I'll get right on it. It's just all that shit. It just triggers like, and again, I'm not Black Tower. I'm going into something else. But no, I got you. I feel you on that. It's all peace. It's all love. But I just hate that. I can't watch Color Purple, 12 Years a Slave, 4 Years a Coon, 15 Years of Bad Boy. I can't. Enough with the fucking slavery movies. Enough with. It bothers me because these movies they have an agenda. They keep acting as if the only history that melanated people made was slavery history, but yet they don't want to talk about all the civilizations and the great things that were created by melanated people. And Black History Month I hate fucking Black History Month with passion. It's got such a coon vibe to it, an Uncle Tom vibe. And then you see these dumbass fucking commercials. Did you know Rosa Parks did not want to give up her seat on the bus? I can't do that shit no more. I don't want to hear, and again, all due respect, I'm not Rosa Parks, all of them that went through the Civil War. They went through shit we would never be able to understand. But what I am drawing upon the fact is, let's not act as if that's the only Black history. It bothers the fuck out of me. So I don't watch any of that shit. To this day, I kid you not, I never watched Color Purple from front to back. Couldn't even tell you what the whole movie's about. Anytime I hear them talking that, yes, sir, Mr. Both Man, I can't. I just can't do it. It just strikes. I didn't watch Django with Jamie Foxx. None of that shit. I can't watch any of it. The one I was able to sit through, the Nat Turner story, because I know Nat was going to whip some ass at the end, even though we know what happened to Nat. That was probably one of the quote unquote only slave movie that I could sit through. It's just the same old stereotype bullshit. I can't do it. I didn't even watch that, whatever it was, 12 or 14 Years a Slave or a Coon, whatever the fuck that movie was. here we are in, 2016, 17, 18, and we're still making movies. I mean, seriously, come on. Let's make a movie on how the ancient Egyptians who were African discovered the, laser surgery, and they were doing heart and open heart surgery before any of these doctors that are doing it today. We don't make movies about that. We want to talk about, the Underground Railroad and whatever. That's just my opinion on it. I'm not telling anybody listening or watching, you don't have to agree with that. But that's my stance on it. It's not going to change. I don't fuck with none of that. I don't care about 12 years a slave and none of that shit. But anyway. Brother Phil types in, how can spirits outside of you possess you? Wouldn't it be an aspect of yourself? Yes. It's not that when we say being mounted by a spirit, you're not mounted by some individual entity outside of yourself. Remember, you're now embodying the aspects of what that archetype resonates with. So when I said earlier, when I was talking about your aura being opened, you're now just a vehicle for an influx of that energy because the body has to be prepared. The psyche centers are opened to embody that energy. Even though it creates or sometimes can be explained and sound like it's something external, it is in one aspect, but the doorway is opened internally. Because again, it's back to that first principle, all is mental, mental is all. So for an example, so there's no confusion, right? And if we're doing a ritual, say for Baron Samedi, we've done this and we did this ritual here. You have the implements, all the things that connect with Baron Samedi. It could be dress, it could be spiritual tools. Then there's chants, invocations are done, which creates a heightened vibrational frequency or energy. So what starts to happen as that energy and frequency and vibration is raised up, you now embody everything you read about in a book that Baron Samedi is. This applies to any. I'm just using that because that's what came to mind. And then you start to act, talk, and how you know you're truly mounted by quote unquote the spirit, or you've opened up a psyche center. And I use that tradition. That spirit will walk around, which is you. And it'll tell things about an individual that they couldn't possibly know, things of that nature. I'm just giving an example. That's one. So yes, in essence, it's still, an aspect of yourself. It always is. You're just embodying what that archetype represents. And we know archetypes are just that. It's a type or a characteristic, a personality, or a representation of multiple aspects of that personality. What's up, man? Where you going now? Get something, man? Yeah. What you getting for me? Nothing for me? You getting some water? Yeah. Okay, cool. So yeah, it is a higher aspect of yourself. So that's what we mean when we say being mounted, or I hate to use the word possessed because that's what makes it sound spooky and external. All right, I'll close that. Don't worry about it. I'll get it for you. You got it? You got it? You got it? Good? Good job. Okay, I got you. All right. Yeah, that's a good idea, but I'll definitely consider maybe we do a video just focusing on that and go a little more in depth next go around. So that's a good idea. Yeah, good idea. Oh, okay, hold on. Sorry, hold on. I'm trying to find my spot. All right. Black Tower types it. I'm not a Reiki master, never got to finish my training, but damn, did I get some valuable experiences and knowledge. Okay, cool. This may seem strange, but Black Tower also types in. This may seem strange, but I have never had to focus on N3Ds for some, I think that's a spell checker error. As long as I focused on becoming in the Kefir sense, my needs were always met, no struggles. Oh, needs. I never had to focus on my needs. Okay. Yeah, I mean, and again, everybody's different. Not everybody's going to approach things the same way or be affected the same way. So again, whatever methodology you apply and works for you, that's what you do. So that's a good thing. Castan Bandit typed in, what if it's not about teaching, but picking a spiritual path? Not sure if that was in relation to, I guess that was in relation to being initiated in something. Maybe I'll look down to see if you have any more clarification. Beth Fish Yummy checked out earlier, which we're going to do that shortly. Good night, everyone. Hope you enjoy your night. You too, if you're not still here. Cam Dash Bandit, and we're almost at the bottom here. We're going to wrap this up now. Can you merge traditions while becoming an initiate, i.e. for Santeria, and knowing that I understand I am dealing with the archetype energies, aiming for left-hand path, adepthood, etc.? You can, but make sure if you're working with particular archetypes in those traditions, make sure there's similar energies. And what I mean by that is, let's give you an example, and I've mentioned this in the past, like Kali, being of the Dravidian culture, you can work and connect that with, per se, Sekhmet or Lilith, because it's similar energy. So yes, you can, include a conglomeration of those initiates, but just be very aware of the energies you're working with. And don't mix energies that may not be productive. So whatever working you're doing or spirit, make sure the energies are similar. So yes, the answer to that, you could, yes. Cast in back. As always, because I recently built a relationship with the Babalawo. All right. Now, a Babalawo is going to tell you you can't. See, so understand that. If he's a traditional Babalawo, remember, they're always going to come at you with the aspect that Ifa is the only way, just like anybody that's exclusive to any culture, philosophy, or religion. So I'm sure you probably know that, but I just want to reiterate that. A Babalawo will tell you no to that question to an extent, and because they're going to be base it on their loyalty or their faith in their spiritual system. Now, even though some of those branches work and they are flexible with a lot of different African aspects of the spirituality path, but it's going to stay exclusive to that Ifa. So just understand that. That's very important. Black Tower types, and I may be white, but the only race I belong to is the human race, and that's a good point. And again, on this path, it's irrelevant. You can be a practitioner on this path. Again, I mentioned this many times before in the past. You can be Black, you can be Latino, you can be Asian, you can be European, whatever it is, it's irrelevant. So as long as you get results, and even though I'll talk about, we do know it's common sense when we talk about history, and it's not racism. We know who the first people on the planet were, but we all come from that point of origin. So yes, just want to make that clear. Race is irrelevant. The results you can get on this path is exclusively up to the energy, time, effort, and work that you put in. You understand? So yeah, the Black Tower types and B, you have to be the coolest dad ever. I try, I'm not perfect. I got my issues, and I try to figure it out. But I love my little guy. I love that little guy. I got a big one. You see him walking by and forth. He's 24. You didn't see him, but he's been walking back and forth. He's a grown ass man now, finishing up school. But I try to connect to them, but still keep that father relationship, but yet a friend. But they know the fine line between friend and father. And again, the beauty of it is I have mentioned this before and in the past, man. They were they're brought up in this, so it's an easier connection. They weren't brought up in the church and all that. This is what they know, especially my older son. I mean, he's 24, and this is all he knows. And though I don't force him. I would love to get him on camera and build. He knows a lot. It's just not his thing. I don't force it on nobody, But anyway, what else we got here? Wrap this up. Brother Seth Athletic, to be careful with tradition because you can be confined by it. You can. And that's why I was saying earlier, tradition can get more religious than religion. Because, and unfortunately, in a lot of these cultures, especially Ifa and Santeria, they're so caught up to me too much in tradition. It's like, oh no, and they have what they call in Santeria houses, right? Every house, for the most part, does a lot of things similar, But then there's this difference of opinion of the tradition and how it should be done. And then it's like, you got to do it like this. You can't do it. And I found, like Seth Athens is saying, that tradition shit can confine you. So, and that was one of the reasons why I just got tired of it. I didn't want to fuck with it no more because of that. That was one of the big reasons. All right. Cash Dan Bannon says, thank you for the clarification. No problem. Thanks, Seth Athens. Okay. I don't know who you're thanking, either or. Appreciate it. Black Tower types on this was a good vid, brother. Thank you for your time and peace to you and everyone else. Okay, now I'm right behind you. We get ready to check out. Cast Damn Bandit typed in, I asked, because I am more independent minded, high spiritual life path. 7 in a sense if you follow numerology. Yeah, 7 completion. Yeah, I mean, that's fine. I've learned in this thing that you could learn a lot from that Baba Lawal. He doesn't necessarily need to know everything you do. You understand? As long as you have that knowledge and that understanding, that's fine. But no, you're going to deal. They're more into that stricter way of doing things, that tradition, unfortunately. Cast Damn, I agree. I don't want to get caught up in the religiousness, no doubt. Black Tower, peace and blessings and power. All peace to you, brother. Have a good night. Oni types in, spirituality is like church now. Unfortunately, you're right. Prince Yababa, what's going on, man? I think you popped in earlier. I didn't see you. Peace and sleep easy. Peace, brother. Peace, everyone. All right, that's. I think we're gonna wrap it and cut it there. We'll pick this up on the next go around. Getting late. I'll see some of you on Saturday, 3 p.m. Eastern time. Be ready. I'm ready to roll, ready to rock. We're going to do this thing. If you didn't get in on this session or you couldn't, be it money or you just didn't have the time, we will start another session in the fall. I will break it up 3-4 times a year. Get in on the next session. And if you can, trust me, you'll see the purpose of the class. You're going to get a lot out of it. And the purpose of it is not because I'm promising you all your life's problems will be cured, because that's not what it is. I guarantee you it'll help you moving forward in life. It'll make you a better person spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically, and you'll see the growth. And that's the purpose of the class. And that's it. No hidden agendas, no tricks, no gimmicks. What you put in is what you get out. And that's anybody that knows me, that's how I deal. That's how I roll. All right. Anyway, I appreciate everybody tuning in. If you see in the description box, anything in reference to what I talked about tonight, rituals, classes, readings, consultations, go right to the description box. You can email me, I'm Cage. The fuck, I invented my own letter, Cage. I was trying to say K and I said K and H together. See how the fucking mind is? But I was like, hey, I might look into that, Cage. I just started a new fucking letter, Cage. You can email me at khnum19@gmail.com. Everything I said is right in the description box above.